What a big week it's been in esports. I'm your host, Andrew Ray. We're approaching the pointy end of the League of Legends season. We have an action-packed show with some of the most talented people in the region. But before we get started, let's address the elephant in the room. Where's Nico? Where's Ducky? Where's Judge? All the mainstays of the show. Well, we let them have a night off for this special OPL Finals edition. And since they're not here to give you an update on what's up with Ray, I thought I'd give you an update straight from the horse's mouth. So let's roll with some things off. Get married in a couple of months. It's going pretty well. I'm still working full time. Job back in the office. That's pretty good in the middle of a pandemic. Pretty happy about that. I'm in Adelaide, so the pubs are open. I hope you're all keeping safe. I've started intermittent fasting because I figure it's easier than doing a fad diet. I figure doing a fad diet's easier than doing a real disciplined diet. I've got a sore back at the moment, so I haven't been to the gym for a while. I think it's probably because I'm carrying out content every week with sliding doors. Anyway, that's enough about me. You can find out more about me on my socials. Let's introduce our guests. You'll know them. They're popular people. We've got Spawn, Pete Curulli, and Rusty.
Woo! That is the greatest introduction of all time. And
Thanks,
I'm surprised you only got through 3 of 6 of the people that they invited to host before you, Andrew. Obviously, script cut
I got
out
told by our producer I was number 7, which I thought was pretty stiff. They've got a segment about me, and they haven't had me on the show, and the only way they'd get me on the show is the host. That's pretty rough, if you ask me. But how are you all going? How are you going, Spawn? How's Melbourne life going? How's the broadcast? All that?
Oh, wow, we're just jumping to shit talking Melbourne already, are we? Melbourne life is terrible at the moment. We obviously had, I think, 217-ish cases today, which is still too many, so everyone needs to stay indoors. And I think, just honestly, we're only allowed to leave the house for an hour and go 5 Ks around our house. So you just do laps, Andrew. You just walk the exact same track every single day.
You doing 5K runs yet? Cardio or?
No, I do a 3.5K run.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's what I do at the moment. 3.5K run about 2 or 3 times a week, and then garage gyms probably 3 times a week. That's all my mental can really handle. There's only so long. Do you know, obviously Daredevil, quite a good show, but Rabbit in a Snowstorm, I feel like was an often overlooked part of that show. I am literally Wilson Fisk in my garage, and I just picture slamming someone's head into my garage wall over and over again. I think Quinn calls it Call of the Void, and I talk to Jenna about this all the time. But I've just become an angry person within lockdown. I was always so nice and level-headed on the outside world, but since lockdown happened, Andrew, I've really just become an absolute sociopath.
How about you, Rusty? How are things going? You keeping fit? You've obviously finished your PT training.
It's not bad, man. It's not too bad in New South Wales, right? First of all, so just doing my thing. Keeping fit, yeah. Going to the gym every day. I don't think I'd be able to survive without the gym. It was very rough without it. I'm not going to compare my workouts to Spawn because I will just make him feel a little bit bad with the tools that I have. Man.
No, that's fine. I'm enjoying myself.
I have access to a full gym with an outdoor area then with Olympic lifting areas. That's wonderful. You'd like the AstroTurf, Spawn.
Yeah, Josh, I've actually got something else on tonight, man. I'm not
actually, they can.
That'll go well, right?
And Pete, how are you going all the way down the west?
We're on the other side of the country. We're that way. Not down, but that way.
Right. No, it depends where you are.
No,
Adelaide, it's west.
We're going well. We're enjoying our freedom over here on the other side of the on the other side of the border. But things are going all right over here, mate. I just wanted to congratulate you. I didn't realise that you were getting married in a couple of months. I think that's wonderful. I don't know if you've told everybody, but the baby news and all of that sort of stuff as well is just, oh my God, mate. Congratulations. How wonderful for you guys. When?
That's not the case, just for everyone playing at home. No, that's well down the track.
What I do want to point out, Andrew, is marriage is a good first step for you because you are punching up, but there are things called a divorce.
Whoa.
Whereas you cannot give a kid back. So maybe if you have a kid right now, that would maybe solidify it long term. That's all I'm saying.
Lock her in, Andrew. Lock her in.
I'm a settler. She's the Richard. No one can convince me otherwise, all right? I carry Snowball, carry good genetics. That's how it works. All right. Well, so we've got 3 GMs on the show. I mean, Rusty, I know you broadcast at the moment, but you have sort of held those positions, similar positions before with other teams. What we're going to talk about is have a round table, casual chat. The first thing I want to talk about actually is how's the off? We're reaching the point end of the season. We're going through finals. But before we talk about the games this weekend, off season soon. For a GM, I've always thought that off season must be one of the busiest parts of seasons. You've got mad dash to sign players. Is that true? Is it as busy as when the season's progressing, or is it a level playing field throughout the year?
Pete, you want to take this
Spawn,
one
kick
first?
that one
You're the newest GM to the table. I'd be interested to hear your opinion.
Yeah, so my opinion is I've never experienced an off season, so I have absolutely no idea what to expect.
Well, you had a mini one mid split, didn't you? Because you guys made your change.
We did, but we made one change, and that one change happened very smoothly, very seamlessly, and there were already some sort of conversations happening, getting that sort of ready. So it wasn't like it was a mad dash or a mad rush to make that change. I think. If that's the normal thing that we sort of experience between 2 splits, then no stress really. But I can tell you, going back towards the end of last year, because it was such a tight turnaround from initially picking up the license to actually signing some players, and I was in Japan at the time as well while all of that was going on. That was stressful. That was a mad dash. So yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to our first. As an organisation and as a general manager, I'm actually really looking forward to our first break after Split 2, like full, I guess, end of year break after Split 2, to pretty much take stock of the year and have a bit of a breather and let all the dust settle and look ahead to 2021.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting, right? Because I always live my life, Andrew, by the 6 or 7 Ps, whatever it is. I can't be bothered counting at the moment, but prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. And if you're going to, for example, put on a podcast and pull people in 10 minutes beforehand, you're never going to know whether you're having internet issues at the time, Josh Swift. So I think what you need to do is you actually need to be prepared going into your off season. And a lot of your preparation will probably be happening during the last month of the season. And for myself personally, I've kind of already got my team that I'd like next year bookmarked. I've got kind of my rough budget starting to figure out. Everyone else still counting on their hands. That's cute. But yeah, so just making sure that we're getting ourselves in the swing of things. So when you hit the off season, you can really hit the ground running. Because I think what people have found is you have to wait for a whole different hosts of parties to make their decisions. Mm-hmm. And the trap that you fall into is you can't do anything until we know what the plans are from Riot, and we know what's like, and we know what the big players within the ecosystem are doing. But really what you should do is you should have your own plan, and then you should try and take it from there, and try and incorporate other factors into what you actually want to do and achieve. So I kind of learnt the hard way. My first off season was really rocky. I obviously put together the super team, then came fourth and had to go back to the drawing board. And then the drawing board happened to be bring 3 of them back and have another crack at it. But I think that off seasons can be quite hectic if you don't plan well for them, but I think last time we got it right and it was a pretty smooth transition into the 2020 season for us.
Spawn, just hang on a sec, will you please slow down? I need to write this stuff down.
But yeah, I mean, and the big thing is, and I think a lot of people will take this away, is that content this year has been hugely improved. And I think that a lot of GMs are actually putting more and more time into their behind the scenes stuff as opposed to the on-field stuff nowadays. Obviously, Pete did the right thing. One of the mistakes I think a couple of the other teams did when they came in is they didn't grab a great coach when they first entered the OPL, where Pete grabbed Windows Monkey straight away from the Bombers last year. So I think people are starting to learn that infrastructure wins you. Not to be too cliche, but infrastructure and kind of the talent behind the scenes is really what has on-field success at the moment. And I think also commercial success, which is really important within the OPL.
Without too much of a tangent on that as well, it is important to note that the way a lot of the prior years, I would say, of the OPL have kind of run was you just get the best players and they tend to win. But at a certain point, when you do have longevity of those organizations, Spawn's pretty on the money there, right? If you're actually able to build a culture and an infrastructure behind coaching staff, then eventually, you may not win the first split, right? But you're not here for one split anymore. And it's been really cool to see that kind of transition from the whole league to be more well, hang on, we need GMs to find good coaches to then find talent in the future, which has been cool.
we'll touch more about building star talent and how that plays out globally. So just talking about, obviously you're starting to prepare for the off season. So Spawn, with your year, so currently you're going to probably finish second. Is that a pass mark for you? Like, how do you assess when you come into that? How do you assess, the following? You're going to review the year. Is it premiership or bust, or do you take things with a grain of salt?
Honestly, probably this year is premiership or bust for us. We thought that we played the worst League of Legends that we'd played in maybe 6 weeks over the weekend. And it was still good enough to take down Pentanet and take Legacy to what should have honestly been nearly a game 5. We lost a game when we had Infernal Soul, which I think globally had happened like 4 times before we managed to do it. So we were lucky number 5 on that account. So, and that was with, some less than ideal circumstances. So honestly, like we're gunning to win the whole thing. I think that you're going to see across the next couple of weeks of content as well that comes out of Order is that a lot of our players are all in on this season. We've taken a lot of inspiration from some cliche documentaries like The Last Dance. And I think that this will probably be my final shot at coaching a team within Oceania. I'll still probably stay on as a general manager and do some other stuff. But I think after this year, I probably will step away from coaching. So I think like as an overall, this really is our, big shot at being able to do it. And I'm very lucky that I have an insanely talented kind of playing group at the moment and good coaching staff and Charlie behind the scenes to help us get it done. But we're very much hoping to win this split. I think not beating, the teams on the weekend and next weekend would be a disappointment for us.
And what about for yourself, Pete? I mean, obviously it was quite a while ago, the start of the year. But what were your expectations heading into it, and how are things panned out now? Obviously, making finals in your first.
Oh look, we're
first
happy.
Year's pretty good.
Obviously, I got to go back to the beginning of Split 1. Now, when we initially set out to dive into Split 1, my expectation of the organisation as a GM was, let's dive in, let's launch a brand, let's make sure that we've got all of the right support and we've got the right branding feel and we've got the right team in place. But we wanted to make sure that we'd done everything right to just initially launch a brand. Split 1 for me was, hey, no matter what happens this split, we're here. And it's fantastic to be here. You know what I mean? And as it is, we didn't make finals. And I actually have to admit, as much as I'd love to sit here and go, we didn't make finals, but I was happy because we'd launched a brand, I was really pissed off. Like I was really upset because we felt at the beginning, we had a great first few weeks. So we actually really had some confidence going sort of into midway through Split 1. And then the wheels sort of fell off. And so I felt that we actually really performed under where we could have finished for that split. So the changes were made, obviously, and we've come into Split 2. And to see the guys, hit top 3, cement that third place, get the double chance, all of that sort of stuff, but essentially mix it with the best, all with the undertone of this is our first year. I couldn't be happier. Absolutely couldn't be happier. Don't get me wrong. It would be amazing to get to the end of it and lift the trophy. But, at the end of the day, we've done a pretty bloody good job anyway.
I might throw this on to Rusty. From a coach's perspective, when you walk in, sometimes you've got the roster there, sometimes you don't. What's it like, sort of setting the goals for the team and trying to get them aligned to what you're trying to achieve?
I think when it comes to goal setting, a lot of the time every player just wants to win, right? It's very hard to sometimes take them away from that because you want to win as well. So coming in as a coach, that's your goal, right? It never really changes from that goal until it's not possible anymore. Every season, you start week 1 saying, ideally, we try and win the season, not like just the split, right? You want to have some longer term thoughts. But once you start winning in Split 1, their brains are going to rewire to say, oh, hang on, like we win Split 1 here instead. And so like you spend most of your time just being like, take it as it comes and remember the end goal as a coach. And I think the hardest part working with players is keeping them like mentally on track for longer term, because they will get very swept up in the short term, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think a lot of the thing that you have to remember as a OPL coach or general manager is you're getting like young traditionally males, like between 19 and 22 years old, generally, maybe even 18 and 22. And we're not the most stable demographic when we're 18 to 22. To steal Joe Rogan's line, we've got soft front of brain area that isn't great at processing emotion. So I think like when I kick off a team, like first things first, like we always say, you know, when we come together, let's have values. Let's be good people. Like, you know, let's set like a goal of like not being assholes to each other. Because I've lived in like not lived in the gaming houses, but I've been around gaming houses that have been pretty negative situations, including some of the best teams that have ever happened in those and that have fallen apart because of that. And then I think like as a GM, you always have to bring it back to like we're a commercial body as well. Performance is important, but content and kind of what you're doing is important. So we talk about, you know, being good people that do content and then that have good performance of that. And I think that that's the healthy mix that you have to look for. And only was on Avant would have like done this as well. Like players want to just sacrifice everything to be the best player. They don't want to do, you know, interviews. They don't want to tweet. They don't want to like boost their social media views. They don't want to, you know, be streaming on Twitch. And I think Pete's really like, he's actually got a couple of the boys that do like to do that stuff. Parbu and Biopanther, like the two main ones probably. And Rogue was always pretty good when he was on my mob as well. But I think that that's the big challenge as a general manager, making him see the bigger picture, making him see that just winning isn't enough. Like you don't want to just win and then retire as a 24-year-old having won twice and not getting anything out of this thing. The journey is always, you know, more important than that destination. So I think that that's something that the OPL is learning, and unfortunately a little bit the hard way. Because you look at Mammoth, right? Mammoth is an organization. I love Mammoth. They came in, they made a big splash. But what did they actually get off winning that OPL run? Like,
yeah, it's a good question.
All their players got picked up and plucked overseas. That's great. Hopefully they got some buyouts for it. But did they make a lasting brand impression on the OPL? I would probably argue no. And I think they were the best team that we've had in like maybe the last 2 years, like to be completely frank. And they had an awesome coach as well. But I just think that they didn't hit the other boxes of, you know, delivering on great content and a couple of the other things that you really need to be as people.
Oh, it's all right.
I was just going to dive in there and just add a little something to what Spawn was saying with regards to the guys making sure that they're thinking about their future. It's been such an interesting ride, like discovering exactly what players are like in this particular realm, this industry, because I'm very fresh to all of this, and I come from a background where you actually have to constantly be thinking of what is your next move and your next play going to be. How are you going to evolve your career? What is going to be next for you in terms of that evolution as a commercial FM broadcaster, right? So that's some of the stuff that we're trying to instill into our guys over time, and is why you know, we have made such a point of content and making sure that these guys are trying their best to get out there and do something and be something after they decide to retire. Because at the end of the day, as a 34-year-old, 24 is bloody young. Like if you're wrapping up your career at 24 years of age, oh my God, you're a kid. You've got so much ahead of you that you're still yet to do. And we have to think the OPL has been around for what, 5-6 years?
Yes, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong there. Now, 6 years ago, streaming was a thing, but it was just a glint in somebody's eye, right? Social media, to the extent that we have it and we know it right now, again, a glint in somebody's eye. And yet now, in the last couple of years, maybe the last 2 to 3, with the advent of major streamers and the amount of money that they're making off it and all that sort of stuff, if you've got a platform like the OPL to be able to start building yourself as an entertaining personality, not just as a League of Legends player, but as a gamer or an esports professional in general, you can set yourself up for life. And the OPL is a great opportunity and a great start for them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sort of, I guess, to try and peer back from behind the curtain a little bit then, trying to develop a player to win and then to also build a brand. How do you sort of prioritize that? Do you base it based of, you know, your sponsor commitments and then build it out from there? How do you sort of convince a player to build their brand while also try to win?
I can probably answer this from a content guy perspective. There is such thing as some people who are built for it and some people who just aren't. Now, if you're not built for it, you don't have that content filter over your head, then you're going to have to work a lot harder at it, and you're not going to see content naturally for what it is and have those really quick opportunities to just pull stuff out. There are people out there who understand that content can be as simple as whipping your phone out, doing a quick selfie or a quick selfie video or something and having a bit of a laugh and throwing it up organically, or as complex as shooting something over the course of 6 to 8 hours and then having it, put through the filter of a like a videographer and make this incredible production, all that sort of stuff. That, those sort of people are the ones where I sort of focus on them as much as I possibly can, because if you nurture them right, they can set themselves up really easily. Is the other ones where if they're not naturally inclined to sort of go into content, not unfortunately, but they're the ones who may just, it might not just be for them. And it's as simple as that. You do have to have a little bone in your body that says, I'm a content person, I think, to actually be out there and winning at content. You have to think that way.
I think I'm a content person, but our producer reckons I'm number 7 in line for hosting gigs here. But we'll move on. I've got a question from the chat here from, I think it's Persian Os. Sorry if I've butchered your name there, mate. How do you perhaps keep players that are in the twilight of the career, so they can't really think about esports long term? They're probably in the older demographic. How do you sort of reinforce them to keep building their branding, keep going?
I think that's even easier when they're in the twilight of their career, because you look at someone like DOS only, right? And the last thing they want to do is walk away from this thing with nothing. So then what you say is, if you want to be able to continue to stream to a community, or whether you want to stay involved in an organization, maybe not as a player, but, as someone that helps out with content, or, whether you're someone like Bryce that wants to be able to appear on a broadcast, like that's when it's actually most important to not just be a player. And some people, as Pete said, it's not for them. They actually, they're a radio. They're going to leave being a professional esports player and they're going to go become a lawyer. Like, he doesn't care about content. Like, esports and lawyerism doesn't require content in the same way. So I think, you're going to have some people that just have absolutely no interest for it. But the people that want to stay involved with gaming, the easiest way to do it outside of being a professional player for them, because they're obviously really great at the game, is to actually do some form of content. And I think that in my experience, it's the older people that get it. The young guys, they just think if they're good at the game, that'll be enough. Yeah. But I just keep explaining to them, like, OS has only ever had one FBI. And now we've had like 5. But OS has only ever had one FBI. Yeah. And it's quite difficult to be that guy that's just going to go overseas and make a huge splash. And, credit to Vic, he's probably going to be very rich afterwards. And I hope he remembers where it all came from. And it was definitely from me and not Juve. So I think that, unless you want to try and go down that route, then you have to have something else there.
Yeah, he had 2K followers until he bodied double lift. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sometimes. That was compliments to the other organisation members tweeting about him. To sports conversation here as well, I think when you've got like your twilight players, the hardest thing for them is usually that preseason, right? Because that's when they are thinking about what they can do instead, much more seriously. And I think we've all kind of gone through that age where, like, even your sport comes from finance towards this. I was a bartender before this. And you have the conversations with yourself, right? Like, is esports something I should commit to? And then every year you have the conversation with yourself, what is this something I can continue to commit to? But for players, it's so simple, because, like, if you ask them why are they still here, it's because they want to win. And they've answered their own question before they're thinking about exit strategies, right? So as long as they know what they want to do after, or they're thinking about that, and they know they still want to win now, then there's no issues having them still be incentivized.
Cool. All right. So, changing gears a little bit. We've talked about the FBI as well, and we'll touch on that in just a moment. What I want to do is just go quickly around the room and throw some names into the hat. So, towards the end of the season, it's also awards season in some circles. So, in your eyes, who do you think's in contention for MVP, best player in the league, the rookie of the year candidate? So, you don't have to include just split 2. I'm also thinking about.
Can you give me definition of MVP before we do this? I always ask you this, Andrew, because best player in the comp and MVP are 2 different awards, mate. So just give me your definition before we do it.
So my interpretation of MVP is franchise player. Like, you are building a roster around this player. Like, he's stood out for the season.
Okay, so it's if you got to draft all the players, who do you take first?
Correct.
Okay, are we playing forever? Like,
This
is
year,
this
this year only.
OPL
Like
goes for another 5 years, or is it for next year only? 1 year
point at
contract.
this point in time. This day.
Okay. Roles
Yeah,
agnostic as
agnostic.
well.
Doesn't matter. It's
Sacred,
all
okay.
roles. Pick anyone.
So we're imagining a patch where every role is as strong as every
correct.
role.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay, I just want to make sure that you get this one right because we did this in Melbourne together, and I think this is why you never hosted ever again. So just making sure that we get the title of this category
that's
correct.
fine. Yeah, cool. All right, so we got the definitions, we got the assumptions out the way. You're the head analyst, aren't you? Chuck some names on the board.
In my opinion, there's probably only 2 or 3 people that are actually in this conversation. I don't know. I want to hear what other people have to say first because I think I have a pretty linear definition of this one.
Well, maybe let's go with Pete, who's a bit newer to the scene. He's obviously got a bit of insight with his own team. Who would you be throwing names on the board?
yeah, it's in terms of holistically looking at the OPL, and I've never been one to shy away from the fact that as far as people who are involved in the OPL and with an OPL team and stuff, I'm the greenest. I don't play the game. I watch a lot of it, but I don't play the game. I haven't been following it for years. I wasn't a player back in the day. So I'm not about to throw some names out there and sound like an idiot because I don't know what I'm talking about. But I will talk from, I guess, my own team. And I'm really genuinely proud of all of the boys and the effort that they've put together this year. But I mean, if we're talking in terms of an MVP, or if we're talking actually, I'll approach it from in terms of who are you building a team around. And for me, it's Pabu. And the reason why it's Pabu is because he's brought such a change to the way that we actually play in the Rift. Like, as you know, from last split to this split, you can see a whole new confidence in terms of the way the guys actually play the game and go about it. I just love the way that he dives in. I just loves the confidence that he brings to the sport. And the other thing is watching the game, and I don't know if this happens to you guys, whether it be watching your own team or watching teams in general, watching the game as he's making his way around the map, you can almost hear the communication coming out of him without knowing exactly that he's talking or not, if that makes sense. So look, we've got a lot of really strong guys in our team. In fact, I'd be more than happy to actually put my hand up and say I would love to carry this team into Split 1 2021. Not a problem at all, because I would love to see what they do with another sort of 5 to 6 months under their belt of training together. But if I had to pick one out of the bunch to build another team around, it'd be Pabu at this particular point in time.
Has that ever happened? A team between Split 2 of 1 year and then the next year Split 1 had the same roster? Besides like the 20
Chiefs, Direwolves did it when they won the first time. They took Chippies over into the next one. There's been a couple of them, for sure.
Years though, right? 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, what happens now for those that don't know? Like before we just to kibosh your segment completely, Andrew. So remember what your next point was that you're about to say. Is generally you have the people that won, the people that came second, and the people that came third. And the people that won will take like 1 or 2 people because 1 or 2 will get imported from the second and third group, and then the second and third team will create a super team amongst players and auction themselves off to other organizations as like a 5-person package, and they will try and fight the first place team. So that was pretty much what happened this year with, I would say, Legacy and Direwolves are the 2 super teams out there, right? And then the GMs sit there and they scratch their head and they say, well, unfortunately, we're not the organizations with the money trees. So they say, okay, well, how do we get the rest of this stuff done? And then you kind of build your team from there. That's kind of what happened with Bombers and Mammoth last year, Order and Chiefs the year before. There's a pretty strong track record. In fact, if you go through the OPLs, you can probably pick the 2 teams that this happens with, right? And 2 or 3 of those teams pop up. Rusty, I don't know if you want to kind of do your MVP before now because
I'll go back to it for you, Ray. Don't worry.
Thanks, mate.
I was looking at just rosters on my other screen. I'm thinking if I was to pick, I could come up with like a small list off the top of my head just from the glance at the rosters. Topoon and Rays probably from Legacy.
Yep.
Swiper and Ayla from Order, 2 that I would consider as well. Claire for mid lane. If I was to pick someone as well, I think out of all the mid laners, he's the most like he'd be the person I would build a team around, probably.
Would you pick that as your all-pro team? I don't know if the OPL is doing one this year, but
That wasn't quite every role, but that's pretty close to, now that I look at it, yeah. It's not far off.
You got a couple of top laners and no JG, so you
Croc,
can swap
fair.
Swiper or Topoon for... Okay,
Yeah.
so you'll take Croc as best JG?
If I'm picking an all-star roster, right, I'd put Croc in there, I reckon, current form.
Okay.
Only
That's interesting.
probably second, and then
got a rebuttal there, Jake?
Babu.
Yeah, I got heaps of rebuttals, actually. But that's what happens when you're the most intelligent person on the show, Andrew. Sometimes you disagree with what the other people say. So
Yeah, if you disagree, why aren't you winning the... Well, let's hope you win the flag this year then. But anyway.
Because sometimes talent trumps intelligence. But I think... So I don't think there's any way that you can give Legacy the MVP based off your definition.
No.
Because they have Babip, Raze, and Topoon, who are supposed to be the three best players in the three best parts of their role, and they only finished top of the ladder by 2 games.
Yep.
And they looked very beatable towards the end of the season. So that's kind of like, that's a Golden State Warriors issue to me. Or, when
Jimmy Cook's in the
West
kitchen.
Coast had a good team, Pete, and you had Judd, Kerr, and Cousins all running around in the midfield, taking who knows what substances and just absolutely torching the rest of the league.
Bombers fan saying that, by the way.
Yeah, I just think that, I don't think you can give it to someone from Legacy. Then you have a look at Order, who finished second. Much like Rusty, I would probably throw Swiper's hat in the ring for MVP. His laning stats are insane this year. People sleep on how good DOS actually is. We only, however, won 2 games over Pentanet, who had previously came like 6th and then made 1 roster change, and now he's 3rd. And looking very, very dangerous, and hold head-to-head over the Chiefs. And the Chiefs' best player plays the same position as the person that changed roles, and it made them a better team. They also finished higher than Direwolf. So I'd probably give it to Parbu this year, just based off like what you were saying then. If you do the mathematics, and I'm all about the numbers, it does seem to add up that a 3-place jump is better than kind of what anyone else in the league achieved off a roster swap. And I think he's done it in a role where Babip, Only, Croc, and Miru are supposed to all be superstars.
Isn't that interesting, though, that he was a free agent start of the year? Couldn't find a team.
He was terrible.
So you reckon, so he's improved that much? Like, that's incredible.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, wow.
I actually know for a fact, because I ran Spawn In-Houses. Shout out to Spawn In-Houses. They will be returning this December. For anyone that wants to get involved in Spawn In-Houses, please hit up Spawn. So I ran Spawn In-Houses, and he was jungling against Juves and Carbon and literally getting his ass whooped.
What? That's some boomer material getting whooped as well. Jeez.
Yeah, that is some old school players kicking Parbu from top to bottom around Summoner's Rift. And then he came back in the mid-season and he was a completely changed person. Like, I don't know what happened, but the penny dropped for him and he was much, much better.
Yeah, he became European. I've said this on the OPL broadcast, but I'm telling you, he has just like in and out stalked a European player. And I still haven't worked out which one it is. But he improved so much, and now he's talking European. Like, he has embodied that person.
Oh, you guys know we have a translator that lives in-house now. Like, he doesn't speak English anymore.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. I got a question for you. Would you take a super team who've never played together, but they are the best players in OS, or a talented team with great chemistry?
Well, Pete, funny you mentioned that because I've done this personally.
I like this. Well, talk to me about it.
Okay, so for those that don't know, 2018 order, top to bottom. Tally, best performing top laner by a mile. Spook Swiffer, greatest mid-jungle duo ever in Oceania. Maybe Shern Fantix could probably hold something to them, but they only played together for a split. And then we took FBI Rogue from Sin Gaming. And I think enough said about that area. And we came 4th twice.
What happened there, mate? Do you want to divulge?
Unfortunately, Andrew, there is only so much gold on Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I believe that. Yeah, respect, yeah.
And then when Swiffer is the person that's taking the hit on the gold, like, it does not work. Like, Swiffer is one of the best carry mid laners, and he's a control mage player as well, historically. And he was a person that we decided shouldn't farm, and it just didn't work. Then we bring in Rare and Jake, who is probably the weakest weak side bottom lane, like, as in, like, they just play complete weak side. Jake was always a weak side player. And we just absolutely turned it around. We came 2nd. We had the best gauntlet run of all time, and the team had insane chemistry. And it was because Spooks and Jake thought about the game in the exact same way, and they were the 2 voices on the team.
Yeah, I think like generally the answer to that question would always be you want people with cohesion. But I think the extra layer that was just discussed, which is very important, is it's not always like we get along well, right? It's we fundamentally think about video games in a similar way, or we can learn to play the video game in the same way under coaching. So you could consider, one experienced person, two experienced people, and three rookies as maybe the best thing if those rookies are just mechanics max monsters. Because that's maybe the best way to build a team. Because then once the old folks disappear and become shoutcasters, which does seem to be the way it goes, you can then replace those roles with rookies, right? And you've got your brand.
So, on the talk of the MVP players, a few names have thrown out there, and we've spoken about before. Is there anyone that's in contention for being, as well? I think Spawn quoted Ryan 1 year import ready. Is there anyone pushing it, or will it be quieter this year with the imports?
Right.
I think COVID really stuffs around a couple of players this year. To be perfectly honest, I just don't know how imports are going to work with COVID running rampant over the States. If Rays doesn't get taken by a team eventually, I'm going to be really mad. The poor guys just missed out every single year. And then I think Ayla and Harry are the other two.
Harry?
Yeah. Harry's a monster. Harry is Ryoma 3 years ago. And Ryoma actually sits in a lot of our scrims and helps Harry out. So Harry has got a very good brain for League of Legends.
Makes sense. All right, moving on to the next segment. So, got the big games this weekend. The great thing about playoffs is it's big time. People, you got new fans. People's teams have been knocked out, so it's all on for young and old. What I would like to do is, on each of you, and Russ, you're going to play the role of the Chiefs. Give me in 25 words or less why someone should support your team this weekend. Because, mate, come on, think about all those competitions, and it's 25 words or less. That's something that should be taught at school. Think about how many prizes you could win if you were very good at writing in under 25 words. That's something I think about. I could be a millionaire, probably.
I have more sponsors than words if I'm doing the Chiefs.
All right, I'm gonna pick Spawn to go first. He's a Melbourne boy. I'm sure he can just say that as enough words.
If you like winning, we're gonna win. Order up. There you go.
I don't think I've been inspired. That one, as a neutral fan, I'm giving that one a miss. All right, Pete.
Mate, every single team that is a bandwagon jump on it disagrees with you, by the way. Golden Guardians jerseys everywhere are sold off bandwagon supporters. So you're just wrong, but that's okay.
All right, Pete, why am I supporting your team?
He's writing a haiku or something. Give him a second, Andrew.
There are 168 hours in a week, and I reckon Chiefs spend 140 hours of those applying moisturizer to their skin.
Is that it? Is that just it?
I'm already convinced.
Hashtag PGG win.
It was a poem as well. It rhymed at the end.
It was a poem, right?
Oh, that's good. I was already a fan. I'm on board. Rusty, I'm a bandwagoner. Can you swing me?
I'm on board with PGG as well, Ray. Let me try. Okay. What do we got? What do the Chiefs have that no one else here has? All right. Because COVID's come around, Ray, it's now much more legal to drop your briefs for the Chiefs. So why not support them?
That's good. I think if I have to do a power ranking, it goes Pete, Rusty, Spawn. Sorry about that one, Jake.
That's all right, Andrew. If I had to do a power ranking of Snowball hosts as well, you'd be on the bottom too. No hard feelings here.
I was number 7, and I keep getting reminded every day. Before I let you guys go, just a bit of breaking news. OCS, Direwolves have won 3-0 over...
no, they didn't. Dire Cubs.
Sorry,
Andrew.
Dire
Cubs.
Cubs.
The team is called Dire Cubs.
Blame the producer on that one. He's fed me astray. Won 3-0 over University of Queensland. Good result. Anyone that we can expect to see next year from that match?
I did watch most of it. I disappeared a few times. There was a couple of really awkward moments if you haven't watched it as to what happened. So I would encourage everyone to watch Game 3 because that was an absolute disaster. It should have been more than 3 games is all I'll say. Calrock actually had a crazy series. So just based off the finals itself, Calrock is someone that I would have my eye on. And he was actually someone that scrimmed with AV in 2018. And when he pops off, he was absolutely nuts. So
Let me
I've always
tell
got
you,
my eye on him.
Andrew, about a little known competition that happens in most off seasons. It's called Spawn In-Houses. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. But Spawn In-Houses is famous for finding such superstar 80 carries as Spawn Q Ultraviolet. And Calrock was also I think he won like every single award you could win with Kevy as like the aspiring player. And he got invited to also play in the in-house queue as well. Calrock is 100% OPL ready. He will be, I guarantee Calrock will be on an OPL team next year.
Do you want my early prediction? This is like too early to be real, but I reckon he's on the same team as the Direwolves roster right now. I reckon he just slots into that one as AD.
Oh, so you get rid of Vital and you put in Calrock.
That's my early prediction.
I don't mind that one. It's a good one.
I have a thing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Spawn, do you reckon you could teach me how to play the game?
It depends to what level you want to play the game.
I want to be the next FBI.
No, that's natural. But I can teach you how to play, absolutely.
No, teaching me how to play will do. I'll join your next Spawn In-Houses or whatever the hell they're called. I'll buy an Alienware system, whatever you need me to do. But see if you can teach me how to play the game. I'm a 34-year-old father of 2 daughters.
Yeah,
he's
that's easy.
a Nick boy. That's
Nick.
all right. How do you feel about AP Alistair? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna write some stuff down here in Google while you tell
on the
me
whiteboard,
more.
mate. I can see it.
No, this is streamable content, mate, for the off season. We all got to make some money somehow when the cameras turn off, so we can get this happening. Maybe we can do 5-stack GM queue. We'll find another 3 GMs to jump in, and we'll be the next gamers.
Such a boomer thing to say. The next game is I'm down. All
right, well, we'll stream on Snowball Esports. Lock it in. Play it, mate. You've all signed the media release, haven't you? It's done.
Actually, I haven't signed that media release. I'm just letting you know. And I'm holding that up my sleeve, just in case.
All right, we'll get to we'll make you an offer you can't refuse. Isn't that how it works?
Thanks, mate.
So before we probably get some questions for the chat, if they've got any, just some probably closing thoughts from Spawn and Pete about how they're feeling about this weekend. Are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling confident? Spawn, how you're obviously waiting. You've got the bye. Is it anxious? Confident?
Obviously confident, and then nerves are good. I always explain this to my players. Nerves actually turn into energy. So as long as you can, breathe, focus, go through your routine and ritual, all those things, nerves are actually good. You should feel nervous. You should be anticipating the game of League of Legends. You just have to, you're about to play. You need to be able to visualize, how the draft is going to go, what you're looking for out of that. And, ultimately, like I always say to them, last thing you should think about before you get into the game is like, just picture yourself killing the Nexus, because I don't care how else you play. As long as you get that last auto attack, that 50 gold is the most important thing in League of Legends, right? So we're obviously very confident. We feel like we've beaten both these teams. We have head-to-head versus both these teams. So whoever comes through will be the better team. That's how League of Legends generally works. And we're hoping that we get a good informed team. We can hopefully continue to build our form into the rematch with Legacy.
Good. Looks like you're writing some notes down there, Pete. You're writing your diary. Tell me how you feel.
Picture yourself killing the Nexus.
Nexus is the
Nexi.
Nexi, yeah.
Nexi. No, honest to God, I'm feeling trepidatious. And the reason being
Google,
is
define trepidation. I'm
sorry, I don't understand. I I am. Because I think for me, the emotional connection that I have to this game at the moment is the success of the boys. The success of Biopanther, Praedyth, Get Back, Rogue, and Pabu. For me, because I'm coming into this game so incredibly green in terms of understanding things to a depth that all of the other general managers do, particularly Spawn, and that's genuine. I have a lot of respect for how much Spawn knows about the game as a general manager, and because I don't know as much, my connection to the game is through the guys and their success. So for me, I know how hard they've worked. I've held on to that every step of the way. It's how I've connected to the league. I've ridden the highs of wins and expectation and the lows of not meeting those expectations. I know how much it hurts the guys when they lose because they know they are good enough to mix it with the best. I think this split, we had an expectation to perform above where we finished last split, and we ticked that box off. The sky's the limit as far as I'm concerned, but we just need to get there, and to do that, we need to beat the best teams in the league, and we're up against some stiff competition. So for me, I go into this weekend with trepidation because I know the guys are capable. I know they can do it. I know they're talented enough to do it, but it will absolutely break my heart on their behalf if they don't get there because I know how much it will crush them, but I believe that they can do it.
All right. Before I pass over to Rusty, chat, if you've got any questions, before I get Rusty's closing thoughts on the series, send me your questions. We'll ask, you've got the three most talented people in the region. If you want to ask any questions about Oceanic Esports from the brightest minds, we'll send them through. But Rusty, what are your thoughts on it? Any key matchups? How do you think the results might fall? Just be aware they are in here. But I'm expecting unbiased opinions.
Well, you know me, Ray. I'm never biased.
Except
Except for all the times I am. No, for PGG versus Chiefs, like a specific matchup I'd be looking at is always the jungle position. Like historically, when these two have faced each other, that's been a lot of the difference. It's been the games where Pabu's looked his best, right? And it's been the games where Croc has always managed to look his worst. So this type of matchup to me definitely comes down to PGG getting their early leads. Most of that is made through the jungle role. So that's always going to be the place that I'm looking at. And then being in an elimination round, it'll be the first time that we see PGG in this position. And we already saw the Chiefs clutch it out very easily, really, in their last round against Direwolves. So I think they'll be coming in red hot, and they'll be hard to deal with.
Did you hear Pabu's article about why he said it's easier to play against the Chiefs than people would suspect? Like, not article, his little snippet with PGG on the interview.
No.
I think he said something along the lines of the Chiefs laners run it down while Croc tries to rescue the whole map. And they're very accommodating. They apparently like to get ganked a lot, I think was exactly what he said. So maybe it's not the Croc versus Pabu matchup you need to worry about. It's the Pabu versus Claire, Thien, Katsuri and Dragku matchups that Croc is really worried about, because I'm all for being good at the game of League of Legends, but at a certain point, if you run into a warrior jungle while you're just sitting on blue smite, you tend to get your head pummeled in. And I seem to remember that happening a couple of times when PGG played the Chiefs. So unfortunately from Croc, he's going to really have to do his best Pete Curulli impression and babysit a couple of kids through the most influential parts of their life if they want to be able to pick up a W on the weekend, I think, somehow.
All right. So keeping on track with that.
I'm sorry, I love it. I like as a guy who naturally plays into, like, my job for the last 15 years has been, hey, my boss has always said, how far can you push the envelope? And so to hear Pabu say the things that he does, it tickles my bean. It really does. Like, I get a little kick out of it. And you know what? The thing that I love about it the most is that we get to see some genuine rivalry and create some stories in the OPL. Absolutely. And if there's something that the audience and the fans want, it's a bit of drama and a bit of rivalry and some stuff to sort of hang on to other than just watching guys go about it in the Rift. And I bloody love it.
You can find more of that at snowballesports.com, by the way. I don't know if you've visited it. It's some excellent narrative content about our players in this region. I even think we had an interview at the start of the playoffs. So, you can check it out on snowballesports.com. All right. Chat's got some questions for us.
Our time, chat. Thank goodness for you, chat.
Yeah.
You the real MVP, chat. Any primers in the chat?
Any primers in the chat? Any primers? Sub to us if you can. So keep it yammy asks, does Order want to verse Chiefs or PGG? So let me know, Spawn. Who if you could pick, who would you want?
I honestly don't give a shit, mate. Chiefs and PGG can literally shake hands before the game, call a truce, put a 10-man super team together, and then pick 5 best of those players based off 6 months of scrim sets, and they will still not beat my lineup this weekend.
Sorry, I just have to fix something on this board here. Oh god, that feels so much better. That feels better. Oh god damn. Ah, thank goodness. Right, okay. What?
It says Order of Wankers, I think, Josh. I'll do that one for you.
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't it?
It could.
It says
Order are winners.
Order.
WINNERS. That's winners. Order are winners.
No, don't put that kind of hoodoo on me. Order are wankers, okay? I meant wankers, and I meant every letter of the word.
But I mean, Ray, you're the statistician here. I know that you get around the footy stats and stuff. How many times have Pentanet and Chiefs collectively beaten Order this year?
Do you know that? Because I don't know off the top of my head.
Once. They've taken 2 maps off us, 1 series. It was the Chiefs. How many times has Order collectively beaten PGG and Chiefs this year?
Well, if it's once, it must be 5 times, right?
Well, no, because we played a best of 5, Andrew. Come on, mate. Keep up.
Oh.
So we've beaten PGG 6, and we've beaten Chiefs twice. So that's 8-2 we are in map score. We have an 80% win rate versus these teams. We are not worried about these teams.
8-2 be them. Hey, that's it's not good.
That's pretty good, Ray. I'll give you that one.
Excited. Shout outs to Bayern Munich and Barcelona for that joke today. Loyalty asks, Rusty, can you teach her how to squat properly?
Oh, man.
Take your shoes off.
Yeah, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Step 1's always take your shoes off. How many dot points do you want?
If you haven't got ankle flexibility, put like a 2.5 kilo weight under your heels.
You should realistically do a box squat instead, though, because that's the cheat way. If you want to actually increase mobility, you should squat onto a box instead to, teach your body how to do it properly.
It's technically easier to do a kettlebell squat than it is to do a barbell squat as well.
I do love a good kettlebell squat.
Okay, so basics: feet shoulder width apart, legs or feet slightly out. As if you're a female, they're actually a little bit wider than if you were a male as well because of pelvis shape. And then you break at the hips and knees at the same time, but you don't go backwards, you go down. That's it. And then go to where's comfortable and then back up.
Good.
Very simple.
Princess T?
Can you do ask the grass, Zach? How's your ankle mobility?
Yeah, I can do ask the grass. It's just not that comfortable. Can you?
No, my ankle mobility and my left ankle is really cooked. I kicked a kid in the head when I was 17 in a taekwondo tournament, Andrew.
You always got to say that second part.
Yeah, in a taekwondo tournament. But I kicked him so hard. I had so much adrenaline coming through my body. I was like 22 seconds into the first round of the fight, WA Open. Kicked him so hard in the head that I tore all the ligaments through my ankle. Not great form. And I won the fight because he was knocked out. And then I had to forfeit my next fight. So the next guy just got to go through. Good bracket. But yeah, good fun.
Good RNG there. Pete and Spawn, who makes you the most nervous on the Rift? So I guess for you, Pete, who are you most nervous about on the Chiefs? And Spawn, I guess, is it Pavu's the X factor that you're concerned about on the weekend?
Well, no, it doesn't have to be the Chiefs, Pete. Tell the people who you really are the most nervous about playing out of all the teams left.
Yeah, look, I'm going to take this from a team perspective.
Yep.
And I am most nervous about playing Order because on form, Order have us and have consistently had us. But that's the honest to God answer. We've managed to knock Chiefs over perfectly fine. We've managed to knock Legacy over in our time as well. I actually think against Legacy on pace, we match up very, very well. I think Order are the ones that consistently have the wood over us, and I think it's because we play a very paced style of game. We have a very consistent strategy that we try to stick to, and there's a conversation that I've had back and forth with Spawn. You might have heard of him. Runs these in-houses, and the reality is they're bruisers and they're unpredictable, and that unpredictability is something that makes it very hard as a very strategic paced team to go with, and I think that's been the biggest nail in our coffin. So if we can get past Order, because obviously we have to get past Chiefs, then we have to get past Order, and then we'll face off against Legacy. If we can get past Order, then I'm very confident heading into the grand final. But Order, as far as I'm concerned, Order are our grand final.
Oh, good.
I actually agree with him as well. I think that Pentanet match up with Legacy probably better than any other team in the OPL. Because what Legacy do, right? And like, I don't mean to like get into the nitty gritty of the game, guys. And if anything I say right now is a little bit too high level, like just pull me up and I'll try and simplify it for you. But Legacy do fuck all. They just sit there and they just do nothing. And like literally, they just bore you to death. Like
you explain it like that this weekend,
like,
right?
They farm up. Like you go to Dragon, they go to top lane. You go to Rift Herald, they go to bottom lane. You look like you can win a Baron fight, they just piss off to their Nexus and they just chill out and clear waves. And like honestly, dude, like. It's a successful way to play the game, but sometimes I'd rather be pretty than successful, Andrew. Let me just tell you that much. And I think
you are pretty.
I think Pentanet, they have that style figured out. Pentanet are like the intellectuals of the OPL. Like they've got the game, like they've got like a formula of how they play the game. And Western Way is very systematic about how he takes people through the formula. And this team has no ego, so they've all bought into that formula. And Biopanther will do crazy things like sack 3 creep waves to make a second dragon. And you're like, why would anyone do that in League of Legends? Like mathematically, it just doesn't make sense. But in 10 minutes time, if they play the game flawlessly, then they're going to get a win out of it. And we're just like the drunken louts. And no one really knows what we're doing. A lot of the time, I don't think my players really know what they're doing. But they're big, and they throw a lot of weight around Summoner's Rift. And sometimes when the intellectuals run into the drunken louts, damage gets done, Andrew. And that's kind of what we see every now and again.
I love the set. So, Rusty, who do you think could be, I guess, like the finals, best player of the finals? Like, who do you think's the most threatening in terms of a player?
Like individual player is the most threatening in the rest of the finals?
Yes, correct.
Oh, man. It probably is Hayri at the moment. He's been the wild card the last couple of BO5s we've seen, right? Like he's switched to top lane. He's just dumpstered top laners. He goes back to mid and looks like a monster in his own right anyway. Like Hayri is just Order have always... I hate Order for so many reasons.
So this is like becoming very order-centric, this show. I don't know how it's happened. I don't like it.
When I was coaching
I'm glad
AV,
you changed the tone.
Join the club!
Yeah, I'll get a membership from you, mate, after this one. When I was coaching AV, it was like they were the one team I would dread playing. And that was like, remember, this is during the split where there was Bombers and Mammoth both running around, like insane rosters. But I just couldn't stomach the way Order played. And the most amazing thing, and the reason I bring this up is I feel like that mindset hasn't changed too much. And there's only one person that's still there. Hey, you do the math.
There's Raze as well. There's Rare 7 as well.
I feel like he got that from the rest of the gremlins that taught him how to play like that as well, mate. Certain
See the reason he's in mid, just doing some questionable decisions.
We were most worried about Direwolves, by the way, Andrew.
Why is that?
Not to leak too many scrims, but I think our collective results against Direwolves for the split was about 4-65 or something like that. And I think that there's a couple of games missing out of that equation if we scrim 5 games. And I think a couple of those were because we just packed up and left a little bit early. Direwolves seem to have the edge over us in a couple of those games. And as Pete said, sometimes even though you think you're a better team, you just have a bad stylistic matchup. They beat us in 5 games last split. They held the head-to-head against us last split. They held the head-to-head against us this split. it just like no matter how good my team was playing, Direwolves just seemed to always match up really, really well.
That explains why Chippy's in my interview with him prior playoffs was so confident. He was just adamant that they were going to make the final. I couldn't believe it. And now I know why.
Talking about scrims is disrespectful, like in some ways, but Direwolves had the best week leading up to scrims I think I have ever seen in my life.
Wow. I'm sure they'll be a little bit disappointed now they've heard that.
Yeah.
All right. One more serious question from the chat, and then I'll leave it with an absolute perler at the end. Rusty, would you go back into GM or coaching if you had the choice?
I feel like I would. It's weird because I stopped it to start studying. I was going to take the first 3 months of this year to become a PT. Thanks COVID, it took 8. And then I was going to spend the rest of the year probably learning a language, right? So I was going to learn like maybe Mandarin, something that I was thinking about. English comes later. I don't need that.
Okay. Right.
For the moment, I only speak League of Legends, Pete. It's very different. But yeah, I was thinking about it while COVID hit, and I was like, I probably would go back to doing it. It's not the worst thing. What I would be very careful about doing is all of it at once. That it's so difficult to be a shoutcaster and do in part what Spawn's doing here as well, because it is just too much. And I can't believe he's doing it to himself.
I don't think he can either, to be honest.
But I would do it. I just don't think I would want to be a GM and coach and shoutcaster.
All right. If you had to pick one between the GM or coaching, which one would you prefer?
In Oceania, probably GM.
Any reason for that one?
I just, I would, if I was going to go internationally, I'd like to do coaching because I feel like it's starting with a big system in place where coaching here is you get to design this system, but now I'd be joining things that already exist. So I'd rather do the GM type of work at this point. Internationally, though, I would be very excited to try coaching because I want to actually level my coaching ability up through the infrastructures that already exist over there.
All right. Well, this last one is an absolute pearl of a question. Really want to know, especially with players not being on stage at the moment, we haven't been able to see them. Mercury Oz asks, what is the best OPL bromance? And he says, why is it Pete and Spawn?
This is the OPL Reek feed. I think he's got us twice with this one, Pete.
Yeah, no, I think he does. Yeah. No, you go, please, babe.
Honestly, I say this all the time. It's the young dad buff. Young dads are and I'm this is going to go into a dark place, and then I'll try and pull it out in the end, and I might not be successful. But as a young guy, you go to work and you're just testosterone fueled and soft fronted brained, and you're just trying to become this career person and find a person to settle down with and be successful and get all these things. And this is all scientifically true as far as I know. And then you're going out and you've got all the boys around you and the girls around you, and you're a social creature, and all this stuff happens. And then you see the birth of your first child, and something chemically changes inside of you, and your world just your motivations and your inspirations and your ambitions and your appetites and all this kind of stuff just leave. All I ever wanted to do, Andrew, and you would know this because you worked with me at the time, was be the best shoutcaster in the world, which I think I got close to, but I never accomplished. So I was always disappointed in myself. And I just wanted to be hugely successful. And I was the biggest workaholic ever. And Rusty worked with me during this time as well. And then you have a kid, and obviously had Jasper. And then, it's about, okay, I got a house now, a mortgage. I get up early in the morning to see him, not to go to work. I come home from work, not to chill out and hang out with my friends, but to see my son. And your motivations change. And for dads, it's actually quite isolating, to be completely honest. Especially during a time like COVID, you lose a lot of mates through it because they don't get your motivations and they don't have time for you. You jump on for a Mythic Plus and then your kid cries and your old F4 the game and people are pissed off at you and stuff like that. And honestly, it's really, really, it's tough at the start. You don't have anyone to talk about. An ad comes on or Bluey comes on and you start tearing up or crying and you're like, what the fuck is going on with me right now? And I think only other young dads know that, because I assume dads grow out of it, because my old man was an asshole. So I'm sure he was nicer when I was younger, but by the time I remember him,
I was about to ask,
gone, right?
grumpy co-worker, you grumpy dad, but okay, no, you're not. It's good to hear.
Yeah, correct. So I think like, and I can say Nick in the chat as well, but I just think young dads have like this affinity to each other. So I actually do really like Pete and get along with Pete quite well, and I have a lot of admiration for what he does behind the scenes. And I always say this, like, I think Pentanet is like one of the first new teams that came into the League of Legends and did it good, like did it right, in my opinion. You know, has a good brand, like has something behind them. So I just think like a lot of similarities there, enough differences to make it an entertaining chat. And, you know, that shared common thing about being a young dad is really important to me as well.
I couldn't agree more. And you know what? I just touching on that, you know, the thoughts behind the sort of organisation that Pentanet is. I attribute the maturity of our organisation to the fact that I am a father. I would have actually. I know that going back 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when I was a little more bullish, when I wasn't, you know, as sort of softened up as what I am now. Had different perspectives, was a little bit more aggressive in terms of, you know, business in general and career in general and all that sort of stuff before my motivations changed. I think Pentanet actually would have been shaped differently. It would have been built on different foundations, but Pentanet's built on a genuine care for the guys that have taken, and I say this honestly, have taken the leap of faith to represent the organisation in its first year, because it's inspired by the love and care that I show my kids, right? So, you know, because they're not young kids, they're not kids. I'm talking about our players and stuff, but you know, they're young men. But I look at it differently. Like, I look at their needs differently. I look at the fact that they have futures where once upon a time, I probably would have seen them and gone, all right, you're 15 grand, you're 20 grand, you're 25 grand, and you're 10 grand and probably interchangeable. Whereas it doesn't like that. But that's the reality. Like, yeah. That's the commercial reality of professional sport, right? But I think when you have a couple of kids yourself, that changes to a degree, and it gives you an opportunity to open yourself up a little bit, and you actually become a much richer organization for it, because you start putting that sort of care around your players, and you start thinking about that stuff in terms of their futures beyond being players and all that sort of stuff, because you're already inspired by thinking about that for your own kids, you know? So, yeah, I like, even as Spawn mentioned, you know, Nick's in the chat, and I know I've written a heap of stuff up here just to have a bit of a laugh and a go at the Chiefs tonight. But there's one thing. There's one thing, honest to God, like organisations aside and rivalries aside and fun stories and a bit of drama aside and stuff like that. One of the things that I genuinely get a kick out of is like jumping on Twitter. You know, and seeing these guys talking about their kids or posting a pic of their kids or something like that, because I see the reality in it, if that makes sense, and I see the human side of them in that, and it's something that I can relate to. So I don't know, at a very basic level, I guess there's that mutual respect, as he mentioned there, on that level, and then you cross that white line and. Well, stuff is, I don't care about your kids anymore. I just want to win. So,
also, we're both just very, very good looking, Andrew.
There's
not sexual attraction in a relationship, then the relationship's doomed from the start, I think.
Yeah, so. No, I agreed. And Raymond E. Feast fans, from what I understand of it as well. Have you got any books in the background there?
Yeah, I do. I have heaps of Feist books. This is the end. Look, there you go.
All right, Ray.
That's yeah. I'll just sit back. What is this, like a fourth wheel? What's the situation?
Yeah,
should we turn it to a double gate?
There we go. Just the magician's head. Yeah, great book.
Yeah. Oh, great book, mate. Great book. Oh my God, great book. This is a hardback of Magician, and it's got Raymond E. Feist's signature in it as well.
I'm robbing his house later. That's insane.
I'm a bit of a fan. So, guy, hey, Rusty, Andrew, piss off, will you? This morning I was going to just hang out.
What do you reckon, Rusty? Is there any other bromances in the in the OPL that can match these two. I mean, the closest I can think of, it's not a bromance, but Dragku and Yumi seem to be pretty iconic, but it's not. I don't think it's quite on the same level.
It's a little bit. It's a bit weird now when you think about it, isn't it? No, I would say that one that needs to be rekindled, whether they want to or not, is actually Juves and Nick. For no, and I really mean this, for no particular reason, they've just started like bad mouthing each other, and that's really the only thing. Yeah, that's the only things they say to each other now. And at a certain point, it'll come back around and we'll be fine. But that bromance is on thin ice right now, and I want it back.
I miss the days when they talk about books. It's the same thing as Spawn and Pete. I remember that hour-long film. They were talking about books. It was great.
My God.
It was the best of times.
Twitch chat, by the way, can I just say, someone has written, Suzu520 has written Ubisoft and his shoulder. And then Duke has come back very quickly and said they were separated.
Speaking of
you know what?
Oh, mate.
That's just a great place for us to leave this, I think. That's a great outro.
Yeah, I agree. So thank you so much, all three of you, for spending time with us and being on the show. Really appreciate it. And got to learn more about the relationship between Sport and Pete, and got to learn a bit more about whether Rusty will become a coach again. We'll find out soon. Thanks for coming along, and check out these guys' socials if you're not following already, which you probably should be because you're at this show. They're in the chat if you're not following them already. Thanks for coming, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you very much for having us, Scully. We really appreciate it.